Our scripture reading for today is from Psalm 138, as Sandy mentioned. I give thanks to you with all my heart, Lord. I sing your praise before all other gods. I bowed toward your holy temple and thank your name for your loyal love and faithfulness, because you have made your name and word greater than everything else. On the day I cried out, you answered me. You encouraged me with inner strength. Let all the earth's rulers give thanks to the Lord when they hear what you say. Let them sing about the Lord's ways, because the Lord's glory is so great. Even though the Lord is high, he will still see the lowly, but God keeps his distance from the arrogant. Whenever I am in deep trouble, you make me alive again. You send your power against my enemy's wrath. You save me with your strong hand. The Lord will do all this for my sake. Your faithful love lasts forever, Lord. Don't let go of what your hands have made. The word of the Lord. Thanks.
Well, just rifling through the questions I've got so far a little bit. Can't say I didn't ask for it. We will see how this goes. Some of these will be quick. Some of these not so quick. Some of these, holy cats. So what I'm going to do is take out my phone and I'm going to put my timer on, because we could do this all day. And I don't think you all want to hear me push that deep into coffee hour today. Somebody was brave, but I don't know if you speak for the group there, friend. So, where was the one? There was one I wanted to start with. I liked this one. Ah, yes. This is the one I wanted to start with. Do you like cats? And do you have any pets? Or a crocodile or an alligator? That one is easy. I do not have a crocodile nor an alligator. But I do have a cat. And most of the time, I like my cat. After our trip away, I guess she must have missed us, because we were already flying in red-eye anyway. So it was really late when we arrived. And the cat immediately started meowing and yelling at us. And then we laid down to bed. And a few minutes later, the cat comes running into the room, meow, 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 meow. And she never does this, usually. And then she gets on the bed and wakes us up. And then she leaves, and a little while later, she comes running into the room, meow, 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 and jumps on the bed and has to come out and bump my chin. We're still here. And we're still here. And this morning, even, it was still, oh my gosh, you're still here. So yes, I like cats. I will like mine better in a couple more days. I know, I left her alone for so long. So, the question here that asks if we could talk about baptism during Sunday school and what that means. Well, the quick answer to that is I could just say yes. Does that suffice? I think that would be an excellent topic to discuss. In fact, what I'm going to do is take some of the things that we have in here, and I will consider them, and I will get back to you more in an upcoming newsletter as well. So, let's see. What spoke to you at General Assembly? That is a good question. There's always so much going on at General Assembly, and it's always, well, I won't say it's always interesting. We do have business meetings. But it's always a powerful experience to be in the room with, I want to say there was something north of 3,000 disciples gathered in Des Moines, which I know we can look back during the glory days, and there used to be 5, 6, 7 sometimes, but even being in an assembly hall and worshiping with 3,000 disciples is pretty powerful and pretty amazing. We had some great preachers there. Our last day, William Barber II was our preacher on the final day, and if you find yourself moved by preaching from the African American tradition, Dr. Barber is going to move you. He was good. Let's see. Define the glory of the Lord. That is a seminar. Yeah, you laugh. Sandy signed that, so I feel like I can tease her about laughing. That is like a seminar, a semester-long seminar at seminary level topic. And I'm going to wimp out on this and say I have a book. It's a collection of essays, and one of the authors did what was, to me, a striking article talking about the glory of God and what it meant. And I forgot what she wrote about 4 years ago. But it was really powerful and impressive. And, to get too much beyond that, this is one I might set aside, and we'll find it Sunday that Yuki's not working in Seattle. She's the professional theologian. We can ask her about that one.
What's the name of the book?
Oh, you would ask me that, and now I'm going to forget the title. I can see the cover, except for the words.
We'll talk to you.
Yeah, I'll have to come back to it. Let's see. Are there any spirit-filled worshipers in this congregation? Now, this sounds like a setup. I think there are quite a few who are spirit-filled, although I will say the measure of what means to be spirit-filled, I've found that there are different ways to measure that. And so the question I might ask to clarify, and as a way of continuing to move on down the list, is that we would need to talk about what your measure of spirit-filled worshiper is. Because I think there are multiple ways to measure that. And they don't all look, feel, sound, act, sing alike. But that would be a fun one to talk about, too. That would be a fun one, too. Oh, yeah, I asked for it, didn't I? I need direction and help loving hateful people, spouting hateful things.
I didn't write that.
All right, in fairness, I did say nobody had to claim their question, but there's no need to feel you need to deny them either. It is okay. I will, aside from picking on Sandy, I will generally protect your anonymity. But this is a question that we deal with in so many of our walks in life, and we can talk about how hate is a poison in our world today, but it's not like this is new. It's not like this hasn't happened before, and it is hard not to get drawn into the back and forth and to get into the pitched and the spitefulness, and it's so easy to be tempted to respond to people who are acting in hateful ways with anger and with our own bitterness. But I think the hard journey of discipleship is learning how to not let the hate infect you, so that you don't become a multiplier and you don't start amplifying the same thing. We won't solve the problems of hate in the world by becoming hateful ourselves. We'll just aid in the cause. It doesn't mean we can't be upset. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It always hurts, especially if it's directed at us specifically. But we can't solve it by using the weapons of the hateful to fight them back. We'll never get there. We'll never get there doing that.
Killing with kindness comes to mind.
Killing with kindness. I think killing with faithfulness, if I can build on that too. Because we know Jesus, his actions didn't always come across as kind, but they did come across as faithful. Because sometimes he challenged the hateful. He challenged those who were using their power unfairly and unjustly. And I think that that's legitimate, but don't succumb to that temptation to pick up their weapons and to use them. Beat those terrible swords into plowshares. Let's do something different. So I love meeting in homes for potluck and Bible study. Can we do it again sometime? Well, again, this is an easy one. Yes. I have a name here. Maybe I will have a chat, and we can talk about what might come of that. If there's interest, certainly. Let's see, how do we handle our enemies who put us down verbally? We want to love them, but the urge to fight and defend ourselves is strong. I think it's that same thing. Finding a way to find our own peace, finding a way to put our trust in God. Don't turn around and strike back. How would I like to, this is a very practical question, thank you. How would you like the committee structure of the church to change? And the short answer that I'm going to use here as I'm attending to my timer is come to the pastor's cabinets and I'll let you know. Let's see. How does a person pray effectively? You know, if I had the right answer for this one, I'd probably write a book. And it probably wouldn't be very good because I'm not a great writer. But, you know, I think the way one prays effectively is that you measure that effectiveness by how much you have felt the presence of the Spirit, how much you have felt an engagement with God. I know you all have heard me say this before, but my answer to this will be some of the holiest time I spend in my week is turning the compost pile. Because that to me is this moment of dying plants entering into the tomb so that they might resurrect as the compost that will give life to new seeds that are planted in the remains. That is such a holy thing for me. And I enjoy the slowness of it. I love the fact that I can't just throw it down in my backyard and tomorrow it's ready. I have to attend to it. I have to be a part of it. I have to be engaged in the death and the resurrection. To me, that's prayerful. That's one of my spirit disciplines. Figure out what yours is. Experiment with things. Try something. Look in places that are unexpected. I never thought that looking into my backyard with dead plants and chicken poop and shredded paper would be where I might encounter God, but lo and behold, I did. Figure out where you will. The measure of effective prayer is where you encounter God. Why don't the elders do the invitation to communion, the telling of the table story? Great question. Where are my elders? I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. Why aren't you guys?
You do it when you're gone.
Oh, you do it when I'm gone. Wait a sec. Is this a backhanded way of saying I need to be gone more often? There is certainly nothing that would stop us from changing that. I grew up in a church where the minister remained at their seat during the service of communion because the elders ran the service. And I know that is very much in line with our tradition and our roots as disciples. I won't lie, I love the table. But if we want to do it differently, we can do that. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Okay, still going. I think the word here is, what do you think when you hear the word tradition? That's what I'm going to go with, tradition. Boy, you know, my answer to that might depend on what kind of mood I'm in and what day of the week it is. Depending on where you are and what you're doing, tradition can be a roadblock, it could be a ball and chain, it could be an obstacle, but on other days, tradition is grounding. It's fertile soil. It's that which we grow things out of as well. I'm going to overuse my compost metaphor, but I think we have to spin our traditions through the compost heap and let the good sort itself out so that it might give life to the new, and let that which needs to break down, break down. It's actually the Unitarian Universalists call their hymnal Singing the Living Tradition, and I just love that. I love that image of living tradition because too often tradition can be seen as like this block of things and knowledge, and this is the way it was and is and shall always be. And yet any of us who've studied our own history just as disciples in the last 200 years know, well, that ain't how it's been for 200 years, much less for 2,000 years of the faith. What we call tradition changes and grows, and it does breathe, it is alive, and I think there is power in that. Tradition is that which continues to ground us to the faith and connect us. We aren't an apostolic tradition in the sense that some churches consider the apostolic succession of their leaders, but There is something apostolic about being able to trace our roots through those who have raised us up in the faith, through those who raised them up in the faith, and them, and we can run these roots genealogically clear back to the early church. I think that's a powerful thing. How do I become one with God? Oh, another hard one, but I know for me, one of the things about becoming one with God is getting out of my own way. The biggest disconnect I find between myself and the divine is always me. Once I finally figure out how I'm doing it, it becomes clear. But at the time, I'm often wondering, God, oh God, why have you forsaken me? Well, usually I'm the one that's forsaking God. I think finding ways to open ourselves and to look for God where we weren't expecting it. God shows up, just not always where we were looking. Well, this one's maybe not quite a full semester-long seminar, but why in Genesis are there two stories of creation? Interesting question. I might add to that, just as a counterback. When Noah takes the animals onto the ark, how many of each does he take on?
7.
Wait, I heard two different things. 2. I heard, what else did I hear? 7. Are those your final answers? I'm pretty sure there's actually 3 different versions and they have 3 different numbers. We find that different stories either are played out in different ways or repeat themselves, and sometimes they're told differently. One of the Noah stories, as I recall, there are 7 of certain animals taken on, and it's a very pragmatic reason, because we are reminded that some of the animals taken on the ark did not eat plants. So how are you going to feed carnivorous animals for 40 days? Unfortunately, of the 7 that were taken on, only 2 of them were promised the way out. Very pragmatic story. So, Genesis, why are there 2 creation stories? So do you want my Hebrew Bible professor's answer, which we don't have time for? And I love Rick, and I'd love to share it, but
Not now.
not now, thank you. Okay, so we won't say that one now. So I'll give you the short answer instead. You know, this is the thing I love about our scriptures, is that we find the same or similar stories told multiple times. And our tradition tells us that sometimes these stories were written down later on, and so they got told and retold by people. And we know how storytellers work, right? A good storyteller gets your attention by making sure it's a ripping story. Well, if the story you got handed isn't ripping enough, and your audience is starting to show you that, what do? You embellish it a little bit. But I also think that there are truths to be found in all the stories in the Bible, and that's what I love about the 2 creation stories, is they invite us into 2 different understandings of God's actions in the world. They invite us into 2 different ways of thinking about how we are faithful. Is one true and the other not? I don't think so. You're really asking me, did one happen and the other one didn't? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I trust that both of these stories are true because we have something to learn from them. And I think there's power in that. Every story in the Bible is true. The history around a few of them may be a little shaky from the way we think of it as factual, a retelling of the order of events, but the stories, every one of them is true. That's the value. That isn't why there are 2 creation stories, but that's why it's valuable. And that is my phone telling me that if we keep doing this, we're going to be here all afternoon. So, boy, a couple of these aren't going to answer any. Really quickly, did Jesus own the clothes he wore? I don't know. Did Jesus own the clothes that he wore? I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I hope they were his. But on the other hand, Son of God, I guess he can do what he wants. Let's see. A couple of these are going to take me too long. Y'all ask great questions, by the way. I'm sorry for those of you who have questions in this pile that I have not gotten to.
New sermons.
New sermons. From somebody else? Oh, yes, the sermon seeds. Gotcha. So, okay. Some of these I might circle back to a little bit later, but we are going to continue forward because if we don't, like I said, we'll skip right through coffee hour, and you all will be less inclined to come see me next week, I think. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share and begin the conversation. And I wanted to do this because part of the act of faithfulness in the life of being followers of Jesus is learning to talk about and share our stories and learning to talk with one another. And I also want to do it because of that very question of the divisiveness and the hate that we see being spewed in the world. We have to learn to ask and answer one another's questions and to do so in ways that are honest and faithful and hopeful and helpful, even when it's hard. So we practice that here in the church, I hope, that this is a place where we can learn to converse with one another. And I want to inspire us to be able to begin our own conversations, not just within the walls, we can do that, I hope, but to carry the conversations about our faith beyond it too. Donna kind of tipped her hat to that with the story of her son and the way he carries his conversation out into the world. How do we carry the gospel out into the world as well? So, as we move forward into our time of preparation and invitation, our hymn of listening for God's call, and Jeremy, if you'll pop that up because I don't have my notes. Thank you. Ask me